Hi, my name is Mofokeng Lehlohonolo. I am a subject advisor for mathematics grade 8 and 9, and I am from Thabo Mfutsanyana. Today I'm going to present to you the algebraic equations, which is for grade 8, but I think for grade 9 it will just be part of the baseline. But the way it is made, it will be accommodating grade 8 and grade 9 learners, whereby you'll have activities to do first and then I will go on. Right, now let's continue. These are the objectives. One, for grade 8, grade 8 must be able to set up the equation to describe problem situation. And then for grade 9, it will be a revision. And then grade 8, analyze and interpret equations that describe a given situation. And then we'll have to solve equations by inspection. Then also solve equations by using additive and multiplicative inverse, and then using laws of exponents. Right. And then again, we have to determine the numerical values of an expression by substitution, meaning you'll have the value for a particular variable, and then you substitute to get another, to get the whole expression. And then we have to use substitution in equation to generate tables of ordered pairs. So that is for grade 8. Like I've indicated, for grade 9, it will be just a revision. Right. And then now let's continue. The algebraic expressions are part of content area patterns, functions, and algebra. Right. Now, for algebraic equations, the explanation first is an equation has two sides which are separated by equal sign. In other words, the equation is having the left-hand side and the right-hand side. At least one side of an equation contains a variable in algebraic equations. At least one of them. In other words, we can have a variable on both sides. Right. And we also have what we refer to as linear equation. Linear equation is an equation of the first degree. What does that mean? It means the highest exponent of the variable is 1. It is in the form ax plus b is equals to 0. As you can realize or recognize, the exponent of x is 1. Right. And then algebraic equations. In algebraic equations, like I've alluded, we compare two sides. We compare the left-hand side as well as the right-hand side. This is the equation. We are having x plus 3 being the left-hand side. We are also having 10 minus 5 being our right-hand side. Right, and then the whole equation, we refer to it as equation. Right, and then we also have x as the variable. Right, and then equation is also compared to a balance. In other words, in a normal balance, we know that if the weight on the left-hand side is equivalent to the weight on the right-hand side, then there will be a balance. Now, this is an example of an equation. Right. Now, go into to our first objective, setting up an equation. Let's check what do we mean by setting up an equation. Right. Firstly, equations are useful to describe or model a situation. And then secondly, the equations can be used to solve problems. In other words, from modeling the situation, we can be able to present the situation in the form of equation and solve it. Right. Now, steps to solve word problems. Word problems are those ones that we set up the equations from. Right. The first thing that we need to do is to identify what you are asked to solve. In other words, we must identify the question and then let the situation or the question to be any variable, whether you let it to be X, to be Y, whatever variable that you want to use. Right. And then secondly, you need to make sure you understand which operation the question is asking you to perform. Like for instance, when the question states the sum, it means it refers to addition. It refers to the positive. When the question state the difference, it means that is a subtraction, or we are going to subtract. And then if the question state the quotient, then we are going to divide to get the answer. And then lastly, the product. If the question talk about the product, that is multiplication, we are going to multiply. All right. So we need to have that understanding before we can actually set up an equation from the situation. Right. And then lastly, we must ensure that we answer the question. Always state your answer clearly. Like for instance, the situation will be presented and then you will be letting the question to whatever variable. Remember that variable was not part of the situation. Then you'll have to rephrase again to go back to what you have been asked and answer that question. Right. Now, here is the first activity. The first activity, Thandi is 6 years older than Simpiwe. If Thandi's age is X, what will be Simpiwe's age? That is the first question. Right. Then the second question, determine Simpiwe's age if Thandi is 25 years old. Right. I will just give you at least 3 minutes to go through this question. 3 minutes will be enough. Right. I think time has elapsed. Now we can have a look at the solution. Right. Now let's go now to the question again. Thandi is 6 years older than Simpiwe, and if Thandi's age is X, what will be Simpiwe's age? Remember, Thandi is older than Simpiwe and the age of Thandi is X. Now, what will be Simpiwe's age? Simpiwe's age will be Thandi's age less by 6. I repeat, Simpiwe's age will be Tandi's age less by 6. In other words, this will be the solution. Yes, Simpiwe's age will be x minus 6. It will be Tandi's age less by 6. Right. Now let's go to the next question. The next question said determine Simpiwe's age if Tandi is 25 years old. Now the age of Tandi is 25, and then what will be the age of Simpiwe? Remember, Tandi is 6 years older to Simpiwe. Now let's have a look at the answer. Right. Simpiwe's age will be 25 less 6. In other words, Simpiwe's age will be 19. As you can see, if you add 6 to 19, it will give us 25. So that is the difference between Tandi's age and Simpiwe's age. So this has been represented mathematically. It was a model situation, and then we managed to write it in the form of, we managed to write it mathematically. Right, and then let's go to the next activity. Right, the next activity, a number is multiplied by 2 and has 3 added to it. Yield 21 as the answer. Right, that means we are having a number that we don't know. When that number is multiplied by 2 and 3 is added to the product, then the answer will be 21. So now we need to set up the equation for the situation and solve that equation. That is one of the objectives. Right, now let me also give you some times. Let me say, let me give you 3 minutes again to try to solve this, and then I will come back to you after that 3 minutes. Two minutes to go. 1.5. A minute. I should think you are done. Let's have a look at the solution now. Right, before we go to the solution, let's have a look at the question again. A number is multiplied by 2 and has 3 added to it. Yield 21 as the answer. So let's set up the equation for the situation and then solve it. Right, now let's check what will be the solution now. Right, the first thing, as I've indicated, when solving this kind of question, or when answering this type of questions, you'll have to look at what the question wants. The question says a number is multiplied by 2 and has 3 added to it. Set up the equation for the situation and solve it. Now the first thing that we need to do is to let that number that we don't know to be any variable. So in this situation, I've actually used x. Now let's check the first thing that we need to do, the second thing that we need to do. This is now the equation. We were told that that number is multiplied by 2 and then we add 3 to the product of that number and 2. Then the results will be 21. Right. Now, we have already set up the equation. And then after setting up the equation, now we need to solve the equation. So in solving the equation, crate 9, we use now what we refer to as the inspection. We can start with inspection now. So in using the inspection, it means we must check what will be the number that when we add 3 will give us 21. And surely we can see that the number that we need, it must be 18. If we add 18 to that, if we add 3 to 18, it will give us 21. Now, therefore, 2 times x must be 21. But before then, let's write it in a correct manner. Right. X times 2 is written algebraically must be written as 2x. Right. I was actually looking at the presentation of one of my colleagues where he was talking about how to write some of the things in algebraic way. So for us to write x multiplied by 2, then it will be 2x. So like I've indicated, we have to look at the number that when we add 3 to it, we will get 21. Surely that number, it must be 18. So that simply means the value of 2x is 18. The value of 2x is 18. Remember again, I've indicated that by asking ourselves this question, we are actually solving the equation by inspection. Hence the question, what number 3 must be added to get 21? That number will be 18. That simply means 2x is equivalent to 18. Now, the next step will be what number must be multiplied by 2 to get 18. Surely we can agree that that number that we need to multiply by 2 to have 18, it must be 9. Yes. So in other words, the value of x is equals to 9. Now remember what I've alluded to earlier on. I've indicated that in solving the equation, we cannot just leave the answer as it is, because this was not part of the package. This was not part of the question. The question only need to have the answer. So the answer, the final answer will be the number is 9. That will be the final answer. Right. So most of the time, learners are challenged by such question because they fall mostly under level 4 questions. Yes, we still have level 3 questions, but mostly they fall under level 4 questions. So in this case, as I look at the degree of difficulty of the question, for me, it is level 3. Right, now let's go on. Let's go to activity 3. Right, for activity 3, the question, the sum of 3 consecutive natural numbers is 39. Find the numbers. Right. Firstly, we need to understand what do we mean by consecutive. Consecutive, it means those numbers are followed one another. So if we know the natural numbers, we will be aware the difference between the numbers will be 1. So in other words, we will have to select the first question, and then from the first question we will be able to have, the first number, and then from the first number we will be able to have the second number, and then the third number. So now remember the sum, we have to add those three numbers in order to get 39. So the other thing is, after solving for those three numbers, we must be able to see that if I add these numbers, definitely they give me 39. Now again, I will just going to I'm just going to give you 3 minutes to solve this one again. Two minutes. A minute. I should think we can now have a look at the solution for this question. Right. Now let's go back to the question. The sum of three consecutive natural numbers is 39, and then find the numbers. Right. Now we'll have to set up the equation. So now let's say we let the first number be x. That means if the first number is x, the second number will be x plus 1, because the difference between the natural numbers is 1. If you let the first number to be x minus 1, definitely the second number will be x, and the third one will be x plus 1. Right. So it doesn't matter how did you write it, as long as the difference between the consecutive numbers is 1. Right. Now let's have a look at the solution for this. Now let the first number be x. We know the first number is x. What will be the second number? Because the difference must be 1, the second number will be x plus 1. Let's have a look at it. The second number will be x plus 1. And the third one, surely it must be x plus 2. Then let's have a look at it. Right. The third number will be x plus 2. So the sum of these three numbers must give us 39. Now let's set up the equation. This is the equation. X plus 1 plus x plus 2 will give us 39. Right. And then we have to add the like terms. So in adding the like terms, we will realize that x plus x plus x will give us 3x. And then 1 plus 2 will give us 3. So therefore 3x plus 3 is equals to 39. Now let's solve the equation now. Again, here we can use whatever method that we can use. We are actually having the inspection that, like I've alluded, we also have the additive and multiplicative inverse in solving this. But I've actually used inspection again. You will see as we go on, there will be a question whereby, or activity whereby there is I've actually applied additive and multiplicative inverse. Now for the inspection, the question will be, what number must 3 added 2 in order to get 39? Right. So that number if we check, it must be 36. It must be 36 years, because 36 plus 3 will give us 39. So let's have a look at that. Yes, the answer is 36. So in other words, the number that we need to add 3 to in order to have 39, it is 36. So now we continue. We are now having 3x being equivalent to 36. Now we need to know the number that we will multiply it by 3 in order to get 36. And if you check the number that must be multiplied by 3 to get 36, surely it must be 12. Alright, so let's have a look if it is correct. Yes. Yes, in other words, the value of x is equals to 12. If you can realize, we didn't actually solve the equation mathematically. We actually ask the question, we actually answer the questions that we have asked ourselves. Now, as the last question, we have said what number must be multiplied by 3 to get 36. That number is 12. That simply means the value of x will be 12. Right. And now, let's check what will be the second number, because we are aware now the first number is the very same answer, which is 12. And then the second number will be 12 plus 1, which will be 13. And then the third number, it will be 12 plus 2, which will be 14. So let's have a look at it. Yes, the numbers are 12, 13, and 14. So let's check now. If you add 12 and 13, you'll get 25. And if you add 14 to 25, then definitely you'll get 39. So it means we managed to work well. Right. And then the next activity. A number multiplied by 6 and has 3 added to it is equal to 21. What is the number? That number must be multiplied by 6 and we add 3 to the product, then it will give us 21. What will be the number? Right. At least now we have actually see how do we approach these questions. So for now, I would not actually give you some time to work out this one. We will just go through these questions together. Right. Now, let's have a look at the solution. The number must be related to any, remember it must be any variable. Right. So the number, for me, I've actually used x. Right. And then the second step, we will set up the equation. We know that that number must be multiplied by 6 and 3 must be added to the product, and then it will give us 21. Right. Now we can see that 6 times x will be 6x plus 3, which will give us 21. Right. Then on this case, I have actually used the additive inverse. Now, remember I've indicated when we start with the lesson that in the equation, we are having a balance. That simply means if we are having a balance, whatever that we are going to add to one side, it's going to make the balance to be unbalanced. So to counteract that, we must add the very same thing that we have added in one of the sides. So hence, in this case, the idea here is to isolate the variable, whatever term that contains the variable. we need to isolate it. So in other words, 3 must be subtracted on both sides, or we can say negative 3 must be added on both sides. It is one and the same thing. Right, so we have actually subtract 3 on both sides because we want to isolate 6x. We want to left with 6x. So that simply means 3 minus 3, it will give us 0. It now bring back the issue of the additive and the 0 as additive property. Right, now if we subtract 3 from 3, it will give us 0, and then 21 subtract 3, it will give us 18. Now we will have to apply the multiplicative inverse. So the multiplicative inverse of 6, it must be when we multiply it by 6 will give us 1. And if we write 6 in the form of a fraction, it will give us 6 divided by 1, or 6 over 1. Right, here it is. We are having 6x over 1. We multiply it by 1 over 6 because 1 over 6 is the multiplicative inverse of 6 over 1. If we are having 3 over 2, the multiplicative inverse will be 2 over 3. Right, whatever that we do on the left hand side, or whatever that we did on the left hand side, we must also be it must also be done on the right hand side. So we have multiplied by 1/6 on the left hand side. We must also multiply by 1/6 on the right hand side. So if we multiply there, we are going to have 1 multiplied by 6, it will be 6. We are going to have 6 multiplied by 1, it will be 6. So therefore 6 divided by 6 will give us 1. So we are going to left with 1x. On this side, it will be 1 multiplied by 8, which will be 18, and 6 multiplied by 1, it will be 6. So therefore 18 divided by 6, it will give us 3. So definitely that number will be 3. Right, now let's have a look at this one now. Thandi is 10 years older than Hloni. In 3 years' time, she will be twice as old as Hloni. How old is Thandi and Hloni now? We want to know the age of Thandi and Hloni now. Let's revisit the question. Thandi is 10 years older than Hloni. That simply means Hloni's age is less to Thandi by 10. So in 3 years' time, Thandi will be twice as Hloni's age. Or, yes. Now, how old is Thandi and Hloni now? Now let's set up the, let's actually try to set up the equation. Right, now let's Thandi's age be x. Anyway, we can also let Hloni's age to be x, whatever way may be. But I've actually tried to solve them, to use both method. Right, now Hloni's age will be, because Thandi's age is 10 older than Hloni. Therefore, if Thandi's age is x, then Hloni's age will be x minus 10. Right. Now let's check what is going to happen in 3 years' time. Then we were told that in 3 years' time, Thandi's age will be twice as Cloney's age. Now, in 3 years' time, Tandi's age will be x plus 3. Tandi will be having x plus 3. And then the same with Cloney. Cloney will be having x minus 10 plus 3 in 3 years' time, which simplified to x minus 7. Right, and then now we were told that Tandi's age at that time, Tandi's age will be 2 times Cloney's age. Cloney's age is x minus 7, therefore Tandi's age will be 2 times x minus 7. And then now we know the age of Tandi. We replace Tandi's age in 3 years' time as x plus 3, which will be equivalent to 2 into x minus 7. And then now the equation is set up. Then we solve the equation. We remove the brackets by applying the distributive property. 2 multiplied by x, 2 multiplied by negative 7, which will be 2x minus 14. And then adding negative 2 on both sides, we will have x minus 2, which will be minus x. And on this side, we will have 2x minus x, which will be 0. Again, we have to isolate 3. We will have to take 3 on both sides. That means it will be 3 minus 3, it will be 0. And then negative 14 minus 3, it will be negative 17. Therefore, the value of x will be 17, which represent Tandi's age. So now, in other words, as we speak, Tandi's age is 17. What will be Cloney's age? Cloney's age will be 7. Yes, Tandi's age is 17 years old and Cloney is 7 years old. Right. And then, like I've indicated, you can also let Cloney's age be x. If Cloney's age is x, Tandi's age will be x plus 10, because Tandi is older to Cloney by 10. Right. In 3 years' time, Cloney's age is x plus 3. Tandi's age will be x plus 10 plus 3, which is simplified to x plus 13. Now, Tandi's age is 2 times Cloney's age, which is 2 times x plus 3 in 3 years' time. Right. Setting up the equation, Tandi's age, we know Tandi's age is x plus 13, which will be equivalent to 2 into x plus 3. Removing the brackets, it will be 2x plus 6, and then negative x, if we take negative 2 on both sides, x minus 2 will be negative x, and then taking 13 on both sides, it will be 6 minus 13, it will be minus 7. Therefore, the value of x will be 7. That simply means Cloney's age now is 7. What will be Tandi's age? Tandi's age will be 17 years. Right. We are just going to take a break, and I will be back at 2 o'clock. I will actually start with grade 8 SWAG as prior knowledge, and then we will go to grade 9 SWAG, whereby we are still going to deal with algebraic equations. Thank you very much. Let's meet at